life or the woman. A sudden crisis sent Du Zhong into an instinctive combat-ready state. Glancing at the exhausted security guards, he barked, "All of you on your feet! Now move!" Du Zhong knew full well that the 6 men were utterly spent. Even if they dragged themselves to the hospital building, they'd be useless in a fight. But without hardship, how could they ever grow into the men he envisioned? He wouldn't coddle them, not in this regard. "Take us there," he ordered, turning to the young nurse. "But in their condition, can they manage?" she asked doubtfully. "No problem." Du Zhong nodded confidently, striding out of the security room first. The 6 guards exchanged weary glances, sighed in resignation, and forced themselves to follow. "You only love yourself." "No, please don't kill me. I want to live. I don't want her anymore." The young man cried out in terror, begging without a moment's hesitation. Upon hearing this, Lin Xiaoya, who had been weeping bitterly, froze instantly, her face turning deathly pale. Du Zhong also furrowed his brows, forming an immediate judgment of the young man in his heart. "Not a real man. If you had chosen the woman, I wouldn't have laid a finger on you. If the woman I love is with a man willing to die for her, I, Haizi, would only offer my blessings and walk away." Haizi snorted disdainfully, sheathing his knife. He kicked the young man to the ground and said contemptuously, "But you chose to save your own skin. I, Haizi, despise cowards the most. Spineless cowards who can't take responsibility. See that? This is the man you've been so fond of." Haizi sneered coldly before turning to Lin Xiaoya. Lin Xiaoya stood there in a daze, staring at her boyfriend in disbelief, her eyes wide as if trying to see through him. "Break one of his legs." At Haizi's command, the surrounding thugs raised their steel pipes and moved to act. The crowd gasped in alarm as the pipes were about to descend. At that moment, Du Zhong sprang into action. Narrowing his eyes, he rushed forward in an instant. Before the thugs could react, he appeared beside the young man and kicked 2 of them flying. "This is a hospital, my turf. No one acts under my watch." Du Zhong scanned the crowd with an imposing aura. No one had seen how Du Zhong made his move, but by the time they realized it, he had already taken down 2 thugs. Haizi hadn't seen Du Zhong's move either, but his sudden appearance made Haizi's pupils contract. Still, with their numbers, they had no reason to fear. And now, Du Zhong stood right in the center of the thugs' encirclement. "I haven't settled the score with you yet, and here you are, delivering yourself to me." Haizi sneered coldly and shouted, "Beat them both! 1 leg each." With his order, nearly 20 people surged forward, charging at Du Zhong in a frenzy. The battle cries shook the air. The 6 security guards instinctively moved to intervene, but Du Zhong's voice stopped them. "No one moves." The 6 guards halted in their tracks, exchanging bewildered glances. Was Du Zhong planning to take them all on by himself? And yet, that was exactly what he did. "Bring it on." Du Zhong's expression hardened as he unleashed a powerful force from his feet. Darting forward, he kicked one young man squarely in the chest, then pivoted, delivering a fierce punch to another's face. Thud! Thud! 2 crisp sounds echoed as the young men collapsed to the ground. Bloody teeth spilled from the mouth of the one clutching his jaw in agony. Having repelled 2, Du Zhong remained unfazed. He shifted his feet, leaped to avoid an incoming steel pipe, and seized another young man's arm, twisting it against the joint. Crack! The arm was instantly rendered useless. Du Zhong transformed his fist into a palm, striking horizontally. Another young man who had closed in was knocked to the ground by the excruciating pain in his chest before he could react. In the blink of an eye, 4 young men lay on the ground, completely incapacitated. Every move was precise, each strike neutralizing an enemy. The 6 security guards were stunned. Their captain was this formidable? They had only thought Du Zhong had good stamina and strength, but they never imagined he was this skilled. Every move took someone down without a single miss, as if he had eyes in the back, avoiding every attack. While they were still in shock, the battle raged on. The remaining dozen or so thugs, as if gone mad, ignored their fallen comrades and swung their steel pipes wildly. At that moment, Du Zhong flashed away, slipping out of the combat circle. He reappeared behind the group, and before they could react, he unleashed a flurry of whip kicks, long punches, and elbow strikes. In an instant, the once ferocious thugs fell one after another, howling in pain. Everyone present was utterly astounded. In their eyes, Du Zhong was like a legendary martial arts master. His movements crisp and efficient, as if they were watching a breathtaking movie performance. Even movies couldn't compare. But this was real, happening right before their eyes. The 6 security guards were completely dumbfounded. Taking down 4 in an instant was already impressive, but defeating nearly 20 people single-handedly? They could hardly believe it. Had their captain really taken down nearly 20 people so quickly? Incredible. Du Zhong's performance was so shocking that everyone's attention was fixed on him. No one noticed that Haizi, who had not yet acted, had quietly approached the pale-faced Lin Xiaoya and pressed a knife to her neck. No wonder you dared to step in, you're a tough one. Haizi's face twisted into a grimace, veins bulging in his eyes as he stared fixedly at Du Zhong. Was it you who caused the incident in the development zone? Just as the fight had ended, another crisis erupted. Du Zhong narrowed his eyes at Haizi and nodded. Taking on 20 of my men alone, impressive skills, I must say. Haizi's expression grew solemn. If he had known earlier that Du Zhong was the one behind the development zone incident, he would never have dared to cause trouble at the hospital, let alone recklessly attack Du Zhong. I heard you're an upright man, targeting only those who cause trouble. Haizi took a deep breath and said gloomily, Today, you've seen it for yourself. I, Haizi, am here for nothing but love. Haizi spoke with conviction, as if unafraid of Du Zhong. Du Zhong nodded. Haizi was right, he had come for love. But no matter the reason, crime was inexcusable. Right was right and wrong was wrong. Haizi turned, bringing his mouth close to Lin Xiaoya's ear, and asked, I'm asking you, will you fucking come with me or not? As he spoke, he applied slight pressure, the blade pressing tighter against Lin Xiaoya's neck. Don't force me. Lin Xiaoya turned to Haizi, her face pale. Tears streamed down her previously expressionless face, and she clenched her teeth tightly. You're the one forcing me. Haizi roared madly, his voice frantic. You know exactly how I feel about you. How good I've been to you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be in this state. Today, all my brothers are down. I need an answer. Haizi's emotional outburst sent the surrounding crowd scrambling backward in fear. I'm asking you one last time. Will you come with me or not? Haizi gritted his teeth, his voice hoarse. This time, Lin Xiaoya didn't answer. Instead, she shut her eyes tightly, biting her lip. Seeing this, Haizi understood. Even after witnessing her boyfriend's cowardice, even after being abandoned by him, she still refused to be with him. Hey! Haizi began to laugh, the sound growing louder and more deranged. If I can't have you, then we'll meet on the road to the afterlife. After his manic laughter, Haizi's expression hardened, and he prepared to kill Lin Xiaoya. At that moment, everyone gasped in horror, their mouths agape. This Haizi was truly blinded by love. Just because Lin Xiaoya didn't love him back, he was willing to die with her. He was a madman through and through. The sharp blade began to move as Haizi's wrist twisted. Amid the horrified expressions of the crowd, Du Zhong leaped forward like a phantom, appearing instantly in front of Haizi and seizing his arm. His heart already dead, Haizi felt a surge of strength greater than usual. Yet, even this unprecedented power was completely suppressed by Du Zhong. The force in his arm had barely been exerted when it was halted mid-motion. Before Haizi could react, Du Zhong twisted his arm, using a seemingly simple yet highly effective grappling technique to pin him to the ground. Crack! A crisp sound echoed as Haizi grunted in pain. His arm had been broken. His grip loosened, and the knife clattered to the ground. Do you really love her? Du Zhong pressed Haizi to the ground, his voice filled with anger. Yes, I love her deeply. Haizi gritted his teeth, enduring the pain as he affirmed. Then why hurt her? Du Zhong snorted coldly. Haizi was taken aback by the question. He had never considered it. His face twisted in conflict, then pain, before he finally sighed and said, In this world, only I can make her happy. I can't trust anyone else with her. Du Zhong shook his head. You're wrong. What you feel for her isn't love. It's harm, it's possessiveness. You're only trying every means to have her, without ever considering what she wants. Your love is meant to satisfy yourself, not to truly care for her. You only love yourself, not her. Du Zhong's words struck like a thunderclap, resonating deeply. This statement left Haizi utterly stunned. Yes, wasn't I here for myself? Do I really love her? Is my way of loving right? Do I love her to love myself? Du Zhong's roar had made him see reason and Qingxing Guolai. He sighed. After a long silence, Haizi spoke. You're right. Sensing the change in Haizi, Du Zhong released his grip, freeing him from restraint. Xiaoya, I'm sorry. I was wrong. Haizi stood up, his face filled with regret and unwillingness as he looked at Lin Xiaoya. His pained expression was almost distorted as he spoke. Then he walked away as if in a daze, his demeanor utterly desolate. When he reached the hospital entrance, Haizi suddenly turned back to look at Lin Xiaoya. His eyes betrayed an undeniable sincerity. I still like you and I always will. After speaking, he bowed to Du Zhong. Then, one by one, he helped the thugs he had brought to their feet, escorted them to the vehicle, took the driver's seat, and drove away from the hospital. Xiaoya, are you okay? As Haizi left, the bruised and battered, seemingly refined young man scrambled up from the ground and rushed to Lin Xiaoya's side. I almost died just now. You know, I only said those things as a temporary measure. You know, I'm not that kind of person. Lin Xiaoya pushed him away, turned around in tears and ran upstairs. Seeing this, the young man hurriedly tried to follow her. But Du Zhong, his face cold as frost, stepped forward and grabbed him. Get lost. Du Zhong looked down on such a coward. In times of crisis, a man should step up. To shamelessly call it a temporary expedient afterward was truly despicable. After years in the military, Du Zhong had only ever known comrades who would risk their lives for each other. He had never encountered such a spineless man. Du Zhong despised him. Why are you stopping me? The young man, anxious at Du Zhong's intervention, stood frozen, afraid to move lest Du Zhong strike, yet unwilling to back down. This is a hospital. You're just a security guard. Can you stop people from seeking medical care? Can't you see I'm covered in injuries? He spoke with a tone of righteousness, but it came off as bluster. He had already witnessed Du Zhong's prowess. Humph! Du Zhong snorted coldly, tightened his grip, and pulled the young man closer before delivering a fierce kick to his backside. Before the young man could react, he was sent flying with a cry of pain. Listen up, all of you. Du Zhong turned to the security guards led by Wang Hao and said coldly, remember his face. From now on, he is not allowed to set foot in this hospital. If he dares to force his way in, beat him every time you see him. If he gets injured or maimed, I'll take responsibility. With that cold command, Du Zhong turned and left. The crowd dispersed gradually, cheering and applauding, leaving only Wang Hao and the other security guards behind. Stunned, the six of them watched Du Zhong's retreating figure, exchanging bewildered glances. This time, they had truly witnessed Du Zhong's capabilities. His decisiveness, calmness, determination, and his hatred for evil, yet without being ruthless. They admired him from the bottom of their hearts. So this was their real captain. A captain who could only be described as extraordinary. After the incident, the 6 security guards promptly expelled the young man and obediently returned to the security office. They had no intention of boasting about their glory like last time, only to be punished by Du Zhong again. Even though they didn't spread the word, the crowd that had gathered was too large. Sure enough, by morning, the incident had spread like wildfire throughout the entire hospital. Is that new security captain really that impressive? Of course. I was the one who ran to get him this morning. If he's that capable, I wonder what he looks like. Let me tell you, the new security captain is named Du Zhong. He's quite handsome, especially when he was dealing with those thugs. So cool. In the hallway, a group of nurses gathered, chattering and laughing, occasionally bursting into giggles and playful banter. On the 3rd floor of the hospital in one of the departments. Du Zhong again? Gu Muir stood by the water dispenser, mixing half-hot and half-cold water before turning to the only nurse in the room and asking in surprise. Seems like it. The nurse nodded. That fool seemed like nothing more than a brute, yet he understood principles. Not only did he use force to resolve the troublemakers, but he also reasoned with them convincingly. At this thought, Gu Muir couldn't help but smile knowingly. It seemed she needed to have a proper chat with him later. Wouldn't it be embarrassing if she didn't even know her own roommate well? Remembering how Du Zhong had helped her out of a tight spot and their living arrangement, a blush crept across Gu Muir's face. On the rooftop of the hospital building, in the traditional Chinese medicine department. I knew I hadn't misjudged him. He's truly teachable. Old man Qin smiled as he overheard the nurses' discussions. Meanwhile, in the orthopedics examination room, Wu Haihua's face was dark. Him again? Why is it always him? Wu Haihua slammed his clenched fist onto the desk in front of him, nearly knocking over the cup. Since the day he appeared at the hospital, everything has been taken by him. The honors and reputation that should have been mine have been slowly eroded by him. Now the entire hospital is talking about him. Every single day. Damn it. Every day with new praises. And what about me? No one even notices. The more Wu Haihua spoke, the angrier he became, and his hatred for Du Zhong grew increasingly intense. No, I have to drive him away. I must. In the heat of his anger, Wu Haihua stood up abruptly and glared fiercely out the window toward the security office at the hospital entrance, a sinister glint flashing in his eyes. An incident that rarely occurred but was inevitable had now spread throughout the hospital. Everyone was discussing the new security captain. And because of this, the security team had firmly rooted itself in the hearts of everyone in the hospital. Originally, people in the hospital thought the security team was just there to idle away their time, perhaps arranging parking spots or doing other trivial tasks. But after this commotion, the security team's image was instantly elevated. So, they really could protect the hospital's safety. Even some nurses, who had long harbored feelings for certain security team members, but were too afraid to speak up for fear of ridicule, now openly expressed their admiration. Du Zhong, of course, was unaware of the hospital's discussions. Having resolved another dispute, he felt no pride. In his heart, everything he did was simply his duty. He sought no praise nor glory. He simply acted as he believed he should. This was Du Zhong. For the entire morning, the security team remained on duty in the security office. Only Du Zhong went alone to the small garden deep within the hospital, engaging in various exercises. Honestly, since leaving the military, I really can't get used to such a leisurely life. After practicing a set of military boxing, doing 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 squats, and 500 frog jumps in one go, Du Zhong concluded his workout. It's about time to report to Old Man Qin. He glanced up at the blazing sun overhead, walked to the faucet, and rinsed off freely. After drying himself, he put on his jacket and headed to the security team. After giving a few instructions to Wang Hao and the others, Du Zhong entered the hospital building. When he arrived at the traditional Chinese medicine department, there were still about 10 minutes until the clinic opened. Pushing the door open, he found Old Man Qin and Wu Haihua already inside. Du Zhong, you're here? Just as Du Zhong stepped into the room, Wu Haihua approached him with a friendly smile. Du Zhong frowned. This guy had always been narrow-minded and liked to pick on him. Why was he suddenly so polite today? But unusual behavior often signaled hidden motives. So he asked directly, "Is there something you need?" Nothing. Let's get ready. The clinic will open soon." Wu Haihua's unusual demeanor heightened Du Zhong's vigilance. Though he thought this, Du Zhong showed no outward reaction. He calmly walked to the back of the medicine cabinet to prepare, while Old Man Qin smiled and got ready to open the clinic. In the afternoon, Du Zhong continued to measure out medicines by hand as usual. Since the patients were different from the previous day, he inevitably faced some skepticism. However, after Du Zhong once again demonstrated his skills, everyone felt reassured. Strangely, for the entire afternoon, Wu Haihua did not trouble Du Zhong. Instead, he treated Du Zhong with respect, as if they were close friends. When it was time to clock out, Du Zhong was about to leave when Wu Haihua approached him again. Is the fox about to reveal its tail? Du Zhong thought to himself. Du Zhong, we're practically fellow apprentices. You joined after me, so if you don't mind, how about I call you junior brother? Wu Haihua said with a smile. I haven't formally become an apprentice. How could I presume? Du Zhong glanced at Old Man Qin and replied. Indeed, he had not formally by Sir become a disciple, and Old Man Qin had never brought up the matter of apprenticeship. He had only ever allowed Du Zhong to study traditional Chinese medicine under his guidance. Wu Haihua's expression remained unchanged, still full of smiles. It's only a matter of time before you do. In that case, I'll just call you Du Zhong for now. Since we're both learning from Old Man Qin under the same roof, we should get closer. Let's leave those unpleasant things in the past. I'd like to ask you for a favor. Would that be okay? Du Zhong smiled slightly and asked, What favor? How about this? I'll discuss it with Old Man Qin first. With that, Wu Haihua walked over to Old Man Qin's desk and said respectfully, Old Man Qin, I'd like to request leave tomorrow afternoon. I have something urgent and won't be able to come. How about letting Du Zhong take my place to learn how to diagnose by pulse and write prescriptions? Although Du Zhong has only been here for 2 days, given his aptitude, it shouldn't be a problem. Upon hearing this, Old Man Qin looked up at Wu Haihua, then turned his gaze to Du Zhong. Diagnosing by pulse and writing prescriptions? To be honest, over the past 2 days, Du Zhong had already memorized the properties and combinations of all the traditional Chinese medicines in Old Man Qin's department. Continuing to measure out medicines would no longer help him improve. Whether Wu Haihua's move was a scheme or not, Du Zhong did not want to miss this opportunity. Moreover, Du Zhong feared no schemes. Seeing that Du Zhong showed no intention of refusing, Old Man Qin nodded faintly and approved Wu Haihua's leave request. After the matter was settled, Old Man Qin left the hospital, with Du Zhong following closely behind. Wu Haihua, who stayed behind to lock up, watched Du Zhong's receding figure and revealed a sly, sinister smile. After work, Du Zhong returned directly to the apartment. Surprisingly, Gu Muir had arrived earlier than him. As soon as he opened the door, Du Zhong was greeted by an enticing aroma. Oh, Master Du is back. Gu Muir, wearing pink Hello Kitty slippers and a pink apron, emerged from the kitchen carrying a plate of visually appealing vegetarian dishes. She smiled at Du Zhong, who had just entered. Du Zhong nodded, his expression puzzled. What was going on today? Wu Haihua was acting strangely, and now Gu Muir was being warm to him. Had the world changed? Why are you standing there? Hurry up, change your shoes and come eat. Seeing Du Zhong frozen at the door, Gu Muir blushed slightly and spoke with forced assertiveness. This guy really had no sense of giving face. How infuriating. Though she thought this, Gu Muir maintained her smile, adopting the demeanor of a virtuous wife and loving mother as she sat down at the dining table. Oh! Du Zhong snapped out of his daze, changed his shoes and walked over. Child poisoning incident. From the moment Du Zhong sat down, the two of them ate in silence without exchanging a single word. The entire room was filled with an awkward yet ambiguous atmosphere. Gumyur wanted to thank Du Zhong several times, but every time she saw his focused expression while eating, she couldn't help but feel annoyed. A beautiful woman sitting right in front of you, and you don't even react? A meal that should have been warm and pleasant ended in a strange atmosphere. Not a word was spoken throughout. After the meal, Gumyur irresponsibly returned to her room, sulking and leaving the task of cleaning up the dishes to Du Zhong. Du Zhong could only smile wryly at this. However, the food she had cooked was truly delicious. After cleaning up, Du Zhong didn't linger in the living room and went straight back to his room. After a day of training, his mind was sharp, but his body felt somewhat tired. Du Zhong began practicing on his bed, as he had recently felt his mental strength growing rapidly. The next morning, before dawn, Du Zhong woke up. As usual, he prepared breakfast and then left the apartment. By the time he finished his warm-up exercises in the park, the sky was already bright, and Du Zhong jogged to the hospital. As soon as he arrived at the hospital, Du Zhong spotted a familiar figure standing in front of the security room, seemingly waiting for something. Du Zhong recognized the person and was slightly taken aback. What is he doing here? At that moment, under Wang Hao's lead, the group of security guards who had just finished their training came running back. What are you doing here? Du Zhong walked closer and asked He Zi, who was leaning against the security room door with a cigarette in his mouth, looking every bit like a ruffian. This person was none other than He Zi, the leader of the gangsters whose arm Du Zhong had broken the day before. He Zi's right arm was in a cast, suspended by a bandage around his neck, and he wore an expression of defiance. When he saw Du Zhong, He Zi's face lit up, and he walked over, tossing his cigarette aside and puffing out his chest as he declared, "I'm here to apply for a security guard position." Apply for a security guard position? Du Zhong was taken aback and smiled faintly. Your arm is broken. You should rest properly. This is nothing. He Zi reached out and tore the bandage hanging from his neck in half, saying, I want to be a security guard. I want to guard my love here. I want to live a normal life. He spoke with righteous conviction. Is that so? Du Zhong continued. Aren't you afraid that your brothers will be unhappy with this and come to cause trouble for you? No, He Zi said with full confidence. They respect my choice. Besides, with you here, this is the safest place. No one would dare to cause trouble here, not even small-time thugs, let alone the real underground gangs of Kaiyuan City. I believe no one would dare to mess with you. This statement shocked the 6 security guards. They had only thought their captain was skilled in martial arts, but they hadn't realized he had such a formidable reputation in the underworld. For someone like him to be a security captain was truly a waste of talent. Am I that fearsome? Du Zhong asked. Not fearsome, terrifying. He Zi grinned widely. Du Zhong smiled wryly, thought for a moment and said, You can be a security guard, but you must fully obey my rules. If you dare to cause trouble, this time you'll definitely be carried out lying down. Don't worry, don't worry. This still hurts, He Zi said, pointing to his cast-covered arm. Then you'll start as a temporary security guard. Du Zhong nodded and turned to Wang Hao. Go get him a temporary security uniform. Maybe we should make him a full-time security guard. Temporary workers can be pretty scary. Wang Hao joked with a laugh before running off to fetch the uniform. Hey, brother He, you look pretty sharp in that security uniform, Wang Hao said to He Zi, who had just changed into his uniform at the security room door. Don't call me brother He. Since I'm a security guard now, we're brothers. Just call me He Zi from now on. He Zi replied with a smile. Right. Wang Hao nodded, then asked curiously. I've been meaning to ask. Yesterday your hair was white, so how did it turn black today? I was afraid Captain Du Zhong wouldn't accept me otherwise. He Zi glanced toward Du Zhong inside the security room. Wang Hao nodded in understanding, but before he could say anything, he froze, his gaze fixed on the hospital entrance. He Zi, look who's here. Wang Hao nudged He Zi's shoulder. Turning around, He Zi saw none other than Lin Xiaoya, who had just arrived for work. Spotting Lin Xiaoya, He Zi waved excitedly. Hearing someone call her name as soon as she entered, Lin Xiaoya looked around in confusion and spotted He Zi at the security room door, dressed in a security uniform. She was taken aback, immediately lowered her head, and walked straight into the hospital building without looking back. Watching Lin Xiaoya's reaction, He Zi's smile turned bitter, his eyes filled with sorrow. In the afternoon, Du Zhong reported to Old Man Qin on time, ready to take Wu Haihua's place in learning how to diagnose pulses and prescribe treatments. Outside the hospital, Wu Haihua's head emerged from a black car. He watched from a distance as Du Zhong entered the hospital building, sneered coldly, and quietly made a phone call. Get ready. The clinic will open soon. You know what to do, right? Don't worry. It's just getting that rookie security guard to treat me. As soon as he makes a move, I'll call you. Good. Wu Haihua nodded in satisfaction and hung up. Du Zhong. Let's see if I can't ruin you this time. Since the previous day, Wu Haihua had devised this trap. He would get as close to Du Zhong as possible, then take leave from Old Man Qin to lure Du Zhong into diagnosing and treating patients. Du Zhong was just a security guard with no medical license. As soon as Du Zhong treated the person he had arranged and wrote a prescription, it would constitute illegal medical practice. The police would arrive shortly after, and Du Zhong would end up in jail. Even if he managed to get out, the hospital would never keep someone who had tarnished its reputation. Sitting in his car with a sinister smile, Wu Haihua waited, flipping his phone in his hand. As soon as he received the call, he would not hesitate to report Du Zhong to the police. Just as Wu Haihua waited with full confidence, the sound of urgent sirens suddenly approached. 3 ambulances sped into the hospital and stopped in the open area. Several nurses rushed out of the building and helped unload stretchers from the ambulances. On the stretchers lay children. All of them. Following the ambulances, several media vehicles also arrived. A crowd of reporters swarmed into the hospital. Dear viewers, this is the Kaiyuan City Affiliated Hospital. I am here to report live on the food poisoning incident at Onkong Kindergarten. This morning, after breakfast at the kindergarten, most of the children showed abnormal symptoms. After examination, it was confirmed as food poisoning. The poisoned children have now been safely transported to the hospital. We will provide real-time updates on the situation. A woman in formal attire spoke into a microphone in front of a camera before quickly heading into the hospital building. The arrival of the media crowded the hospital, drawing the immediate attention and concern of the hospital leadership. Under the leadership's arrangements, the hospital admitted all the food-poisoned children and even set aside a break room for the reporters. In front of the media, the entire hospital was bustling with activity. Nurses could be seen hurrying back and forth, checking on patients. Director, it's bad. In the hospital director's office, a gray-haired old man was pacing anxiously when an elderly physician rushed in. What's the situation? The gray-haired director asked. The food poisoning in the children has been contained. They'll fully recover after a couple of days in the hospital, the elderly physician reported, then added with a grave expression. But one of the children had a sudden epileptic seizure while receiving IN4, and we have no way to treat it. What? The director was shocked. Epilepsy fell under neurology, and this elderly physician was the chief neurologist. If even the neurology department couldn't treat it, what could be done? The child was still in kindergarten. Food poisoning was already dangerous enough, and now epilepsy, which could threaten the child's life at any moment. This was an extremely difficult situation. The entire city is watching us. We cannot afford any mistakes. The director frowned, his expression equally grave. Can the child be saved? It's very difficult, the elderly physician replied. What does Gumur say? The director asked. I don't know. She should be on her way there now, the elderly physician said. Then hurry over there, the director said, then quickly added. Wait, go get Old Man Qin first. He should have a solution. That's right, Old Man Qin. If Old Man Qin stepped in, there was nothing he couldn't handle. With that thought, the elderly physician left the director's office and hurried toward the traditional Chinese medicine department. At that time, the traditional Chinese medicine department had not yet officially opened for the day, and there were only a few patients waiting. Inside the department, Old Man Qin was teaching Du Zhong how to diagnose pulses while handing him a stack of books on the synergistic or antagonistic effects of medicinal properties. Just as Du Zhong was engrossed in reading the materials, an elderly physician burst in. Old Man Qin, something terrible has happened. The physician rushed to Old Man Qin's desk and recounted everything that had happened at the hospital. When he mentioned that one of the children had suffered an epileptic seizure during IN4, Old Man Qin's brow furrowed instantly, his expression turning grave. When he mentioned that one of the children had suffered an epileptic seizure during IN4, Old Man Qin's brow furrowed instantly, his expression turning grave. Please notify everyone that the traditional Chinese medicine department will not be seeing patients today, Old Man Qin said to the elderly physician as he stood up. He then turned to Du Zhong and said, Come with me to take a look. Du Zhong had overheard the physician's account and understood the entire situation clearly. He knew how urgent the matter was. The kindergarten food poisoning incident had already drawn the attention of city officials and the media. If anything happened to the child during this time, the hospital would bear an unbearable responsibility. Understanding the gravity of the situation, Du Zhong immediately followed Old Man Qin as they rushed out. How is the situation? On their way to the neurology department, they encountered a nurse who looked flustered. Old Man Qin stopped her to ask. We don't know the cause, and the child's food poisoning hasn't been resolved yet. Even Muir can't do anything about it. Maybe I have a way. Hearing this, Du Zhong was inwardly surprised. Could Gu Muir's medical skills really be this remarkable? Soon, they arrived at the 11th floor where the neurology department was located. Du Zhong saw the corridor packed with media personnel carrying cameras. In the midst of the crowd, a young female teacher stood anxiously guarding the door of the ward. Though she appeared worried, there was a sense of relief in her waiting, as if a weight had been lifted. This scene made Du Zhong pause for a moment, but he quickly lowered his head and headed toward the ward. The child is truly fortunate. Who would have thought that Elder Qin would personally come today? I heard he hasn't left the traditional Chinese medicine department in over 10 years. Once Elder Qin takes action, he'll surely work miracles and cure the illness in no time. Exactly, this is definitely big news. With Elder Qin here, the child is absolutely safe. Let's just watch Elder Qin perform his miracle and report on it properly. It seems traditional Chinese medicine is truly profound and effective. The chatter among the reporters made the young female teacher's expression grow increasingly relaxed, as if she could already see the child fully recovered. Following Elder Qin, Du Zhong passed through the crowded corridor without feeling the slightest bit of congestion. In the path cleared by the crowd, he moved through effortlessly. When they reached the ward door, Du Zhong turned to the people outside and sincerely reminded them, "Please keep quiet. The treatment requires a quiet environment. Thank you for your cooperation." He nodded to everyone, then pushed the door open and entered the room, leaving behind a crowd that immediately fell silent. As soon as Du Zhong entered, he saw Gu Muir standing solemnly by the bedside. On the bed lay a young boy with a flushed face and foam at the corners of his mouth. The boy's muscles were rigid and spasming, his small body convulsing uncontrollably. The sight tugged at Du Zhong's heart. So young, yet suffering so much, he sighed inwardly, standing in an empty spot to observe quietly. He noticed that the neurology department's doctors had already taken some measures. The child's shirt was unbuttoned to prevent airway obstruction, and gauze was placed in his mouth to prevent him from biting his tongue. Elder Qin stepped forward calmly, his expression solemn as he began examining the child's entire body. He removed the child's shirt completely, carefully checking for severe symptoms of epilepsy, such as cerebral edema, brain herniation, or respiratory failure. At this moment, Elder Qin seemed like a completely different person. Calm and focused, a stark contrast to his usual gentle and kind demeanor. This transformation struck Du Zhong deeply. Perhaps this was what a true healer was like. In the face of a patient, forgetting decades of one's own personality, with only the patient in one's hands, eyes, and heart. Curing the illness and saving the person. That was the only goal. "Bring the needles," Elder Qin said, turning the child onto his side and immediately extending his hand. Gu Muir, with seamless mochi, repetition error in original text, brought the needles swiftly to Elder Qin's hand. "Heaven sees what you do." "What?" Du Zhong's words stunned everyone in the room, including Elder Qin. They never expected Du Zhong to say such a thing. That was an illness Elder Qin had just declared incurable, and now someone was stepping forward claiming they could do it. This person was either insane or foolish. Elder Qin, Gu Muir, and all the doctors in the ward stared at Du Zhong in astonishment. Elder Qin's gaze was more scrutinizing, with even a hint of anticipation. Gu Muir, recalling the incident with Huang Mingjin, suddenly brightened up. Perhaps Du Zhong really had a way. Meanwhile, Wu Haihua, unable to wait any longer, couldn't resist his curiosity and entered the hospital building. "Really? Can you save my son?" Unlike the others, the child's mother clutched Du Zhong's arm as if grasping a lifeline, asking excitedly, "May I ask when your son first fell ill? Do you know the cause?" Du Zhong looked at the parents, his eyes carrying a trace of coldness. "He first fell ill around the age of 3. We don't know the exact reason," the young father said sorrowfully. "Humph." Du Zhong snorted coldly, his voice icy. "Do you truly not know? Or are you pretending not to know?" His frigid question seemed to drop the room's temperature by several degrees. Du Zhong glared coldly at the young parents, the scenes that had flashed in his mind earlier resurfacing. Unable to hold back any longer, he stepped forward and demanded, "Was it on New Year's Eve 2 years ago that your son first fell ill?" At that moment, a doctor in the ward tried to stop Du Zhong but was halted by Elder Qin, who watched with anticipation and curiosity. Gu Muir's bright, beautiful eyes also fixed curiously on Du Zhong. Yes. How did you know?" The young father stammered in shock. "Do you truly want to cure your son's illness?" Du Zhong took a step forward, an imposing aura suddenly radiating from him, pressing down on the young father. "Yes, more than anything," the young father exclaimed, his eyes lighting up as if he had found a lifeline. "Then confess everything you two did that night in detail." I'll tell you the method immediately and cure your son right away. 2 years ago. The young father panicked, and the young mother covered her mouth, staring at Du Zhong in terror. Nothing happened 2 years ago. What do you want me to say? The young father muttered after a moment, lowering his head guiltily. Is that so? Humph. Du Zhong swept a cold gaze over the young parents, his icy stare chilling them to the bone. He sneered, turned without another word, and returned to his original spot, standing quietly as if nothing had happened. To treat an illness of this nature, one must first restore their virtue. Otherwise, no remedy could save them. If they dared not admit their wrongdoing and felt no remorse, what could he do? Without genuine repentance, no one could help. Not ancient medicine, not even heaven itself. Everyone in the room was baffled, completely unable to grasp the meaning behind Du Zhong's earlier outburst. What exactly do you mean? The child's father asked, on the verge of bunkhoi, his eyes red as he stared at Du Zhong. Heaven sees what you do. Justice is clear. No one can escape it. If you dare not admit what you've done and refuse to repent, even if a deity descended, they couldn't save your child. Du Zhong retorted coldly. His words left everyone in the room perplexed. What was this security captain trying to say? Only Elder Qin's eyes grew brighter. Heaven sees what you do. The child's parents exchanged glances, their faces filled with anguish as they looked at their child before turning back to Du Zhong. They now believed Du Zhong could cure their child, for only they knew what had happened on that New Year's Eve 2 years ago, and yet this man knew too. He was no ordinary person. Perhaps he really could save their child. I'll speak. I'm not human. The child's father bit his lip, struggling to speak. On New Year's Eve 2 years ago, during a heavy snowfall, because I'm an only child, my parents came from the countryside to visit us, but we drove them away. It was my fault. I was ungrateful, forgetting my parents after getting a wife. At this, the child's father knelt to the ground, his face contorted with pain, and slapped himself hard several times, tears streaming down his face. We know we were wrong. Please save our son. The child's mother collapsed weakly, her eyes pleading with Du Zhong. Hearing this, the people in the ward fell silent. They never imagined these seemingly proud individuals could commit such an act of ingratitude. Such people deserved this torment. But more than that, they were deeply shocked and puzzled. How did a mere security captain know about this? Do you truly recognize your wrongdoing? Du Zhong asked, his face still cold. We know we were wrong truly. Please save our son. The child's mother sobbed, nodding frantically. I have a way to stabilize your child's condition immediately and extend the 1-year deadline to 2 years, Du Zhong said coldly. But to completely eradicate your child's illness, it depends on your actions. Bring the child's grandparents here immediately, support them wholeheartedly, and repent sincerely. Pointing at the child's mother, he added, if you truly recognize your wrongdoing, sincerely wash your in-laws' feet once a day for 3 years, without missing a single day. Otherwise, your child will never be cured. His words stunned everyone, including Gu Muir. All eyes on Du Zhong now held a mix of complexity. From this statement, Du Zhong seemed like a charlatan peddling feudal superstitions for profit. At that moment, Wu Haihua, who had entered the hospital early out of boredom, pushed through the crowd and sneered at Du Zhong, shouting angrily, How dare you, Du Zhong, spreading feudal superstitions in front of so many people, tarnishing our hospital's reputation. Don't listen to him. He's not a doctor. He's just a lowly security guard. How could he possibly cure your child? Wu Haihua scanned the room as he spoke. Haihua. Elder Qin snapped coldly, narrowing his eyes at Wu Haihua to signal him to stop. Seeing Elder Qin's expression, Wu Haihua reluctantly closed his mouth. If you agree and trust me, I can begin the treatment now, Du Zhong said, ignoring the sudden appearance of Wu Haihua and looking seriously at the child's parents. I agree, the child's father said firmly, lifting his head. Their child had no other hope of treatment. Since Du Zhong dared to claim he could cure him in front of so many doctors, he must not be lying. Moreover, he knew things about that night 2 years ago that no one else could. With even Elder Qin unable to help, Du Zhong was their only hope. No, this isn't allowed. Just as the parents agreed, Wu Haihua jumped in again, sneering. This is a hospital, but you're just a security guard. What business does a security guard have interfering? You don't know medicine. Who knows if you're here to save or harm? Du Zhong glanced coldly at Wu Haihua and shook his head helplessly. Indeed, in the hospital he was merely a security guard, not a doctor. How could he treat patients here? Elder Qin also frowned. He was eager to see what Du Zhong would do, but Du Zhong's Sunfen prevented him from acting freely. For the hospital's reputation and the child's safety, no one dared to let Du Zhong proceed. If something went wrong, the hospital would bear the responsibility. Director. At that moment, A middle-aged man with graying hair entered, accompanied by several others. This was the director of Kaoyuan City Affiliated Hospital, followed by the hospital's leadership. Elder Qin, how is it? The director asked, approaching Elder Qin. Elder Qin explained everything to the director. Whether to let Du Zhong treat the child is your decision, director, Elder Qin said, passing the problem to him. No. The leaders immediately vetoed Elder Qin's suggestion. The child's condition is too severe to delay. Elder Qin waved his sleeve, his expression grave. This is a human life, understand? Precisely because it's a human life, how can we entrust it to a security guard who doesn't even know medicine? The leader insisted. Are you Du Zhong? The elderly, rosy-cheeked director, with his hair styled like FAGEs, approached Du Zhong amid the argument. Du Zhong nodded. Did you cure Huang Mingjin's bone cancer? Du Zhong nodded again. Then, are you confident in saving this child? The director asked, skipping how Du Zhong had cured Huang Mingjin. As I've said, I can extend the child's timeline to 2 years. The rest depends on the parents. Du Zhong replied truthfully. The director furrowed his brows in thought. How about this? Let our leadership discuss it carefully and give you an answer in half an hour, the director proposed. Agreed. Du Zhong nodded. Subsequently, the leadership and Elder Qin left the ward for a meeting. Can you really save this child? Gumur asked quietly, approaching Du Zhong after the leaders left. Du Zhong smiled slightly but said nothing. He had already given his answer countless times. Even if he repeated it endlessly, some would still doubt. In that case, it was better to say nothing. The results of the treatment would speak for themselves. On one side, Gumur, ignored by Du Zhong, stamped her foot in frustration. On the other, Wu Haihua, seeing their closeness, sneered darkly and left the ward. He found an empty area and made a call. Hello, police station? At Kaoyuan City Affiliated Hospital, someone is practicing medicine illegally. I suspect intentional harm. A sinister tone laced Wu Haihua's voice. Exactly. This is utterly irresponsible. They're treating our lives as a joke. The chorus of criticism swelled, each person's gaze burning with fury. Old Master Qin remained silent, his brow deeply furrowed as he watched Du Zhong. Wu Haihua wore a mask of indignation, but deep in his eyes, delight simmered. Du Zhong, let's see how you'll talk your way out of this. Just as the entire clinic was on the verge of erupting, Du Zhong smiled faintly, ignoring the accusations, and gently set down the medicine package he held. He turned, opened a drawer labeled Dangue, Angelica, and, under everyone's watchful eyes, reached in and grabbed a handful. This is 1 qian, Du Zhong declared confidently, placing a small pinch of Dangue on the counter. Instantly, the uproar ceased. Everyone stared in stunned disbelief. What did this mean? Was he claiming that this random handful was precisely 1 qian? Treating his hand as a scale? Impossible. Old Master Qin's eyes, however, gleamed with a sharp light, filled with anticipation. Wu Haihua was equally baffled, unsure of Du Zhong's intention. As the crowd teetered on the edge of another outburst, Du Zhong turned again, grabbed another handful of Dangue, and placed it on the counter, smiling at everyone. This is 2 qian. Gasp. The crowd was astounded. They now understood the young man was using his hand as a scale, measuring down to the minute unit of a qian. The more they grasped, the more shocked they became. This was simply impossible. Even seasoned vegetable vendors might estimate a caddy or two with a margin of error, but here was someone claiming precision to 1 qian, a mere 3.125 grams, a weight almost imperceptible to the hand. And Du Zhong wasn't just estimating. He was grabbing the exact amount in one go, something infinitely more difficult than simple perception. It seemed utterly implausible, but Du Zhong gave them no time to process. He turned and grabbed another handful. This is 3 qian. This is 4 qian. This is 8 qian. This is 9 qian. He grabbed 9 times in rapid succession without pause. After finishing, Du Zhong smiled calmly, exuding an unshakable confidence. On the counter lay 9 piles of Dangue, varying in size. To the onlookers, Du Zhong and the herbs formed a mystifying scene, one that defied explanation. A collective intake of breath echoed through the room. If this were a farce, so be it, but if those piles truly weighed from 1 to 9 qian, it would be nothing short of a miracle. During Du Zhong's demonstration, Old Master Qin rose to his feet in astonishment. In all his years of practice, he had never encountered anyone so skilled. Du Zhong's ability surpassed his wildest imagination, provided, of course, that the weights were accurate. Otherwise, this would be nothing but a cheap stunt. Du Zhong, do you think you can fool everyone like this? Wu Haihua sneered, snapping out of his shock. Who would believe you? From 1 qian to 9 qian. Who do you think you are? He refused to believe that Du Zhong could achieve such precision with his bare hands, especially in one attempt. It was simply impossible. No need for belief. Let the facts speak. Du Zhong shrugged, his confidence unwavering. Humph, facts? I'll believe it when I see it. Wu Haihua snorted, striding to the counter and grabbing the first pile of Dang Gue. Asterisk, let's see how you dig yourself out of this hole. Du Zhong, you've stretched this lie too far. Asterisk, he placed the herbs on the scale, adjusted the weight to 1 chin, and slowly released his hand. All eyes were fixed on the scale's balance. Would it tip up, indicating less than 1 chin? Or down, showing more? Or balance perfectly, the impossible outcome? The room fell into a tense silence. Everyone held their breath, their hearts racing as the scale wavered until it finally settled. Balanced. Exactly 1 chin. Not a fraction more, not a fraction less. Gasps of shock rippled through the clinic. How was this possible? The impossible had just unfolded before their eyes, leaving no room for doubt. Yet they struggled to accept it. Was it a fluke? The thought crossed everyone's mind, especially Wu Haihua's. He hadn't expected that small pile to be precisely 1 chin. Asterisk, a coincidence. It must be. Asterisk, he fervently reassured himself. Under the crowd's urging gaze, he discarded the first pile and grabbed the second, placing it on the scale. Again, the balance settled perfectly. A wave of shock visibly shook the onlookers. Could this be real? Was there truly someone capable of such a feat? One coincidence was possible, but 2 in a row? Or was the second also a fluke? Some remained skeptical, none more so than Wu Haihua. He couldn't bear the thought of his plan backfiring, giving Du Zhong a chance to shine. I must drive you out. He inwardly screamed. He grabbed the third pile. The scale balanced. Exactly 3 chin. He discarded it and seized the fourth. Again balance, exactly 4 chin. Beads of sweat formed on Wu Haihua's forehead, his eyes wide with panic. Meanwhile, old Master Qin, who had been observing intently, stepped forward, his eyes gleaming. The results astounded him. He had expected some margin of error, even with Du Zhong's confidence. But there was none. His gaze toward Du Zhong filled with awe. This is impossible! Wu Haihua suddenly roared. Frantically, he grabbed the 5th pile and placed it on the scale. Balance, 5 chin. His face paled, disbelief etched across it. Still unwilling to concede, he madly weighed the remaining piles. Balance, 6 chin. Balance, 7 chin. Balance, 8 chin. Balance, 9 chin. Every result was flawless, without the slightest deviation. Wu Haihua stood frozen, his mouth agape, muttering to himself in disbelief. How could a mere security guard achieve such precision? Old Master Qin, however, paid no attention to the later weighings. Instead, he looked at Du Zhong with delight, only to find him completely calm, as if he had done nothing out of the ordinary. When all the measurements were complete, old Master Qin laughed heartily, his face glowing. Ha! Excellent! He praised, his eyes full of admiration. With such precise perception in your hands, you'll master the art of pulse-taking in no time, making observation, listening, questioning, and palpation all the more effective. Hearing the praise, Du Zhong smiled humbly. You flatter me, old Master Qin. Master Qin nodded with satisfaction. Possessing such remarkable skills yet remaining so humble was something ordinary people couldn't achieve. He hadn't misjudged this young man. Smiling, he patted Du Zhong on the shoulder before turning back to his consultation desk. Meanwhile, Wu Haihua, who had just snapped out of his shock, witnessed the scene and felt his heart tighten. Clenching his teeth, he glared at Du Zhong with deep resentment, as if he wanted to kill him on the spot. The hatred in his heart grew even stronger. All right, everyone stop staring. Let's continue the consultations. Seeing that the patients in the department were still in shock, Master Qin called them back to attention. Everyone snapped out of their daze, looking at Du Zhong with admiration. No one dared to utter a single criticism about his method of measuring herbs by hand. The woman standing in front of the medicine cabinet cast an admiring glance at Du Zhong, grabbed the medicine package she should have taken earlier, and left with peace of mind. The consultations resumed. Throughout the process, all the patients' eyes were fixed on Du Zhong. His seemingly miraculous herb-measuring skill was like a captivating performance to them. Every patient who came to the medicine cabinet to collect their herbs looked at Du Zhong with respect. Praise filled the department, but to Wu Haihua, every word felt like an insult. I am Master Qin's only disciple. What right does a mere security guard have to steal my spotlight? For the entire afternoon, Wu Haihua's face turned pale with rage whenever he looked at Du Zhong. The more he thought about Master Qin's attitude toward Du Zhong, the angrier he became, and the resentment in his eyes grew even more intense. Amid the busyness, the workday came to an end before anyone realized it. After seeing off the last patient, Du Zhong emerged looking relaxed, as if the task of measuring herbs, which others found tedious, was no challenge at all. Seeing Du Zhong's calm demeanor, Master Qin, who was slightly tired after a long day, stood up and walked over to him.
Du Zhong.
Master Qin called out suddenly. Do you remember how many patients we had today and how many prescriptions I wrote? Hearing this question, Wu Haihua grew excited again. He clearly remembered that he had become Master Qin's nominal disciple precisely because he had accurately recalled the number of patients during a previous consultation. That day, there had been 21 patients, but today, there were at least 60. With such a large number, Du Zhong couldn't possibly remember, especially since he wouldn't have anticipated Master Qin asking this question. Clearly, this was Master Qin's real test for Du Zhong. Get ready to be kicked out. Wu Haihua sneered inwardly. There was no way Du Zhong could remember such a trivial detail that no one would normally pay attention to. If he couldn't answer, he would be out. Just as Wu Haihua was gloating, Du Zhong replied calmly. There were 71 patients and 73 prescriptions. Among them, 35 were middle-aged men, 9 were children, 16 were middle-aged women, and 11 were elderly. 2 patients needed additional prescriptions because they were traveling and required medication adjustments. Du Zhong answered without hesitation. What? Wu Haihua was dumbfounded. Master Qin's eyes widened in surprise. He hadn't expected Du Zhong to remember everything so clearly. A satisfied smile appeared on his slightly tired face. It was evident that Du Zhong was a diligent and attentive person. With such dedication, he could learn anything. Smiling, Master Qin had a sudden thought and asked, Since you remember so clearly, do you recall how many different herbs I prescribed today? The difficulty of the question increased exponentially. Patients were individuals, but each prescription consisted of multiple herbs. With 73 prescriptions, one would need to remember which herbs were repeated and which were not to arrive at the final answer. Moreover, under such intense work conditions, even deliberately memorizing would be challenging, let alone casually glancing at the prescriptions while measuring herbs. No one could possibly answer this. Let's see how you answer this. Wu Haihua perked up, his earlier shock replaced by renewed anticipation. However, Du Zhong simply smiled naturally. A total of 218 herbs. Among them, 2 liang of Chinese angelica, 4 qian of ephedra, 7 qian of cinnamon twig, 1 liang and 3 qian of perilla leaf, 2 liang and 1 qian of ginger, 1 liang and 7 qian of cicada molting, 5 qian of trichosanthan, 3 liang of honeysuckle, 6 qian of barberry. Du Zhong continued without pause, listing a long string of herb names and their precise measurements. Most astonishingly, he even specified the exact weight of each herb down to the liang and qian. Master Qin was utterly shocked. Initially, he had only thought Du Zhong had a good memory. The first question was to test his attentiveness, while the second was meant to be nearly impossible. He had only wanted to see how far Du Zhong's memory could go. But when Du Zhong listed all the herbs and their measurements, Master Qin realized that this young man was far more capable than he had imagined. Frighteningly so. This is the first time I've encountered someone with such an astonishing memory, Master Qin exclaimed in amazement. Unable to contain his curiosity, Master Qin pressed further. What else do you remember? I remember every prescription you wrote, Du Zhong replied with a playful smile, including the order of the herbs listed. This statement left both Master Qin and Wu Haihua utterly stunned. How could anyone memorize 73 prescriptions after just one glance? Impossible! Wu Haihua shouted immediately. You must be lying. Du Zhong ignored Wu Haihua, deeming him unworthy of a response. Instead, he looked directly at Master Qin. Do you really remember? Master Qin asked, his eyes wide with disbelief. Yes, every detail, Du Zhong confirmed. Master Qin narrowed his eyes, skepticism still lingering on his face. What was the 21st prescription? Pharyngitis prescription. Xian Shentang, 3 qian of scrophularia root, 2 qian of platycodon root, 1 qian of licorice root. Usage: decoct in water and take frequently, 1 dose per day. A glint of admiration flashed in Master Qin's eyes. What was the 54th prescription? Hepatitis B prescription. Bupleurum root, white peony root, Chinese angelica, white atractylodes rhizome, poria, Isatis root, dyer's woad leaf, schisandra berry, 3 qian each. Licorice root, 2 qian. Salvia root, 6 qian. Usage: decoct for 2 hours until reduced to 200 milliliters. Take 1 dose per day, divided into 2 servings. Continue for 30 doses as 1 course of treatment. Master Qin's eyes shone even brighter, as if he had discovered a rare treasure. What was the 40th prescription? Insomnia prescription. Siegon and Shentang 6 qian of raw pearl shell, 3 qian of Uncaria stem, 3 qian of salvia root, 3 qian of self-heal spike, 2 qian of cinnabar poria, 2 qian of albizia bark. Usage: decoct in water and take 1 dose per day, divided into 2 servings. Du Zhong answered fluently and without error. Master Qin stared at Du Zhong for 10 seconds, his face brimming with astonishment and joy. Then he burst into laughter. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Du Zhong smiled and asked, "Aren't you going to check the prescriptions to verify if I'm correct?" Master Qin laughed heartily. "How could I not remember the prescriptions I wrote myself? I remember every patient I've seen and every prescription I've written, down to the last detail." Still laughing, Master Qin couldn't stop praising Du Zhong. The younger generation surpasses the older. After practicing medicine for so many years, I've finally met someone even more capable than me. "You flatter me, Master Qin," Du Zhong replied humbly, without a trace of arrogance. "Not at all, not at all. Ha ha." Master Qin waved his hand and walked out of the department, still laughing. Wu Haihua shot a venomous glare at Du Zhong before quickly following Master Qin. That evening, Du Zhong sat on the sofa in the living room, reflecting on the events of the afternoon. He felt pleased with the positive start he had made with Master Qin. Although he didn't know where the legendary master of traditional Chinese medicine, Qin Kaiyuan, was, learning from the current Master Qin seemed like a good step forward. Just then, the door opened, and Gumyur, who had just returned from work, walked in. Seeing Du Zhong in the living room, she snorted, tilted her head up, and strode proudly into her room. At her door, she glanced back and noticed that Du Zhong hadn't even looked at her. Pouting in displeasure, she muttered under her breath, "How dare this jerk ignore me?" She clenched her fists, opened the door and entered her room. But this guy is quite mysterious. He actually saved Huang Mingjin. Today, when Huang Mingjin brought him a banner of gratitude, the whole hospital heard about it. If he's the security guard, he should focus on his job. What's he doing showing off at Master Qin's place? In her room, Gumyur pursed her lips disdainfully. She had heard about the banner incident from other doctors and knew it had caused quite a stir. Later, when she learned about what had happened in Master Qin's department that afternoon, she was equally shocked and found it hard to believe. Even now, she still had doubts. Could this unremarkable, somewhat rigid guy really possess such extraordinary precision and perception? An ever-growing mystery surrounded Du Zhong, making it hard for Gumyur to see him clearly and fueling her curiosity. Although they had only interacted for 2 days, Du Zhong had left a deep impression on her, each one more Tenhan than the last. Exhausted from a long day, Gumyur gradually fell asleep without even taking a shower. Meanwhile, Du Zhong, after some fruitless thinking, cooked a delicious meal. When he knocked on Gumyur's door, he heard soft snores from inside and chuckled softly, deciding not to disturb her. The night passed uneventfully. Early the next morning, while the sky was still gray, Du Zhong got up, prepared breakfast, left a note, ate alone, and headed out. Near Du Zhong's neighborhood was a large park. On his way to work over the past few days, he had always passed through it. Since it was still early, he decided to exercise in the park. At this hour, the park was nearly empty with only a few people around. Du Zhong found a quiet spot and, reminiscing about his days in the military, began practicing military boxing. By the time he finished, he was covered in a light sweat. Checking the time, he figured it was about time to teach the security team a lesson. After tidying up, he jogged toward the hospital. However, after running only a short distance, an elderly man with a kindly face approached him from a corner of the park. "Youth, your boxing skills are impressive. How about a sparring session?" The old man blocked Du Zhong's path, smiling warmly. The old man who had sent Du Zhong flying with a single kick came to a halt, calmly observing the frail-looking elder before him. Though the old man appeared spry for his age, Du Zhong knew he couldn't withstand even a fraction of his own strength. With that thought, Du Zhong shook his head and said with a smile, "Old sir, we're not on the same path." "Ha ha." The old man laughed heartily. "It's precisely because we're not on the same path that we should spar and practice together." Puffing out his chest with pride, he added, "Young man, don't underestimate others based on appearances. I was a soldier in my youth, trained in martial arts, and survived the battlefield. Your military-style boxing is far from impressive, so I'm here to offer some guidance. Don't mistake my goodwill for ill intent." His military-style boxing wasn't good? Guidance? Du Zhong let out a bitter laugh and shook his head helplessly, lifting his foot to leave. Just as he took a step, the old man suddenly reached out to grab his arm. Slowly and gently, at least in Du Zhong's eyes. Smiling faintly, Du Zhong evaded the old man's hand and continued forward. But the moment his foot landed, his entire body trembled slightly. His pupils contracted in disbelief as he stared at his arm, now firmly grasped by the old man's hand. He hadn't dodged it? How was that possible? Du Zhong was stunned. He had seen the old man's movements clearly, slow and light, and was certain he could avoid them, yet he had failed. Looking up at the old man's faint smile, Du Zhong's expression turned grave. This old man was no ordinary person. Du Zhong refused to believe he had made such a basic mistake. He had absolute confidence in his control and judgment. If he hadn't dodged, it was because he couldn't. The old man's smile now seemed profound and enigmatic. If that was the case, Du Zhong wanted to see just how skilled the old man was. A glint of determination flashed in his eyes. In that case, I humbly request your guidance, old sir. Du Zhong bowed respectfully. That's more like it. The old man chuckled, releasing Du Zhong and nodding in satisfaction. Now that's a respectful young man who honors his elders. Du Zhong could only smile wryly. It was precisely out of respect for the elderly that he hadn't wanted to fight the old man. Now, engaging in combat was somehow considered respectful. The old man took a few steps back, stretching his waist and legs as if warming up. Du Zhong focused intently, trying to discern any hidden techniques in the old man's movements, but they appeared utterly ordinary. Had he misjudged? Impossible. Du Zhong immediately dismissed the thought. Come on, young man, the old man called out after a few stretches. Though the old man's movements seemed full of openings, Du Zhong didn't dare underestimate him. He gathered his focus, ready to give his all. Please guide me, Du Zhong shouted, launching a swift punch aimed directly at the old man's face. The explosive strike was merely a test, with countless follow-up moves at the ready. To Du Zhong's surprise, the old man remained unfazed, not even a wrinkle on his face twitching. Slowly, too slowly, the old man raised his hand. It seemed almost comical. Du Zhong wondered if he should retract his punch to avoid harming the old man. But before he could act, the old man's palm gently met his fist. Something was wrong. Du Zhong tensed. Even as a test, his punch was formidable. The old man was underestimating him. He couldn't risk injuring the elder and tried to pull back. But it was too late. The old man's palm had already made contact. In that moment, the world seemed to fall silent. Then, an overwhelming force surged from the old man's palm, like raging waves or a descending tiger, piercing through Du Zhong's arm and striking his chest. Du Zhong was sent flying. His eyes widened in shock. How could such a light, floating palm contain such immense power? Though caught off guard, Du Zhong's reflexes as a Special Forces member kicked in. He executed a nimble flip mid-air and landed steadily on his feet. Looking up at the kindly, serene-faced old man, Du Zhong's eyes filled with awe. Suddenly, he recalled a long-standing rumor in the Special Forces. In China's martial arts world, there existed practitioners of ancient martial arts, known as internal martial artists, who cultivated inner energy, or Neili Jinqi. These arts, passed down through generations, were fundamentally different from ordinary martial arts. Though not all practitioners were powerful, legends spoke of masters with unimaginable skills. Du Zhong had heard this rumor upon joining the Special Forces. Over the years, he had pushed his limits, striving to reach that legendary realm, yet he had never encountered such a master, until now. Internal martial arts? Du Zhong stood up and asked eagerly. Ha ha! The old man grinned, nodding approvingly. You're quite perceptive, young man. Overjoyed, Du Zhong thought of the various schools of internal martial arts and asked, which school do you belong to? Xingyi, Bagua, or perhaps Tai Chi? As soon as the words left his mouth, Du Zhong sensed something amiss. The once kindly old man's expression turned stern. He strode forward and delivered a swift kick to Du Zhong's backside. Du Zhong tried to evade, but just like before, he failed. A sharp pain shot through him as he was sent flying once again. He was stunned. This time, he had been fully prepared, yet he still couldn't avoid the seemingly slow kick. And just like the palm strike, it had sent him flying. Fool! Internal martial arts is internal martial arts. There are no schools or sects, the old man scolded, still fuming after kicking Du Zhong. Du Zhong's mind reeled with realization. Internal martial arts was simply internal martial arts, unified and indivisible, with no divisions into schools or sections. It was like love, just love without categories or factions. You're right, old sir. I was foolish, Du Zhong said humbly, rising to his feet and bowing again, ignoring the pain in his backside. The old man's anger gradually subsided, and he nodded slightly. Not many young people nowadays are so humble. Your temperament isn't bad. Since you know nothing, I'll forgive you. Clearly pleased with Du Zhong's respect, the old man continued. In truth, striking others harms yourself. Relying solely on strength, speed, and underhanded tricks, how many years can you last? Take Newton's third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Every punch you throw sends a recoil through your body. Over time, that accumulated force will damage your internal organs. Newton's third law, such a scientific term, sounded oddly out of place coming from an internal martial arts master, especially an elderly one. Yet Du Zhong agreed wholeheartedly. During his time in the Special Forces, he had witnessed once vigorous instructors rapidly decline after turning 40. He had never understood why until now. So, how can this be avoided, old sir? Du Zhong asked urgently. This was a question he had long yearned to answer. He didn't want to end up like those instructors. Want to avoid it? The old man asked with a smile. Yes. Du Zhong nodded firmly. It's simple. Cultivate both internally and externally, the old man replied. Since you're sincere and your temperament is good, if you arrive earlier than me 3 days from now, I'll teach you. If you're late, it means we have no Yunfen, fate. Well, I've had my exercise. Time to head home. With that, the old man hummed a tune and walked away contentedly. 3 days. Du Zhong raised an eyebrow and smiled. He would arrive before dawn on the 3rd day, surely earlier than the old man. He was determined to learn from him. For years, Du Zhong had felt he was approaching his limits, unable to break through. But today, encountering internal martial arts felt like a new door opening before him, revealing a bright path. Missing this opportunity would be a lifelong regret. Only after the old man had disappeared from view did Du Zhong resume his run to the hospital. Today's gains were significant. Everything would depend on the next 3 days. Before he even reached the hospital entrance, he heard raised voices. One voice was familiar: Wu Haihua. Such a commotion? Has something happened? Worried about a disturbance, Du Zhong quickened his pace. As he arrived at the entrance, he realized the troublemaker was none other than Wu Haihua himself. Stepping through the gate, Du Zhong saw Wu Haihua gripping Gu Muir's hand, speaking agitatedly. Muir, I know you understand my feelings. I've liked you for so long. Can't you consider being my girlfriend? We're a perfect match. You're the granddaughter of the Gu family, and I'm a disciple of Elder Qin. We're meant to be. I know you like me too. You're just too shy to admit it, right? Enough, Wu Haihua. I don't like you at all. Let go of me. Gu Muir snapped, her face cold and eyes filled with disgust as she struggled to free her arm. No, Muir. I know you like me. You're just too reserved to say it, Wu Haihua insisted, pulling her forcefully toward him in an attempt to embrace her. No, Muir. I know you like me. You're just too reserved to say it, Wu Haihua insisted, pulling her forcefully toward him in an attempt to embrace her. Hero saves beauty. Gu Muir let out a gasp. Just as she was about to be pulled into Wu Haihua's embrace, a strong arm reached out and grabbed her.
Du Zhong?
Damn it. It's you again. Wu Haihua's face darkened as he snarled coldly. Mind your own business. If you know what's good for you, get back to your security office. The sight of Du Zhong ignited a fire in his chest. It was Du Zhong who had driven him to such desperation today. Ever since Du Zhong arrived, he had been thwarted at every turn. If things continued this way, Gu Muir would drift further from him and closer to this utterly detestable man. He couldn't allow that to happen. If not for the pressure Du Zhong had put on him, he wouldn't have lost his head and acted so rashly today. Meanwhile, Gu Muir, tightly gripped by Wu Haihua, turned her head and cast a pleading look at Du Zhong. You said it yourself. I'm the head of hospital security? Du Zhong sneered, looking at Wu Haihua with disdain. Under my watch, coercion is not allowed, especially when it involves my roommate. Forced fruit is never sweet. If she doesn't like you, why push it? For some reason, the moment Du Zhong appeared, Gu Muir's heart calmed, and her fear of Wu Haihua gradually faded. She watched calmly as Du Zhong handled the situation. Roommate, the mention of it was like adding fuel to the fire, instantly enraging Wu Haihua. The thought of the woman he desired living with someone else infuriated him beyond measure.
Du Zhong.
Don't think that just because you're the security chief you can play the hero. Others may fear you, but I don't. Get lost right now. Wu Haihua roared, tightening his grip as he tried to force Gu Muir into his arms. Seeing this, a cold glint flashed in Du Zhong's eyes. He stepped forward and seized Wu Haihua's wrist, applying sudden pressure. Hiss! A sharp pain shot through Wu Haihua's wrist, and he gasped in agony. No matter how he struggled, he couldn't break free from Du Zhong's grasp. The pain turned his face bright red. Let go of me, Wu Haihua yelled, unable to endure the pain. In response, Du Zhong snorted and tightened his grip further. With a cry of pain, Wu Haihua had no choice but to release Gu Muir. Du Zhong flung him aside with a swift motion. Are you okay? Du Zhong asked Gu Muir, casting a sidelong glance at the disheveled Wu Haihua. Gu Muir's face flushed slightly. As she looked up at Du Zhong, her expression suddenly changed, and she cried out, Watch out! Behind Du Zhong, Wu Haihua, who had been thrown aside, charged forward with a clenched fist, aiming straight for the back of Du Zhong's head. Just as his fist was about to connect, Du Zhong let out a cold laugh. How foolishly overconfident. In a flash, Du Zhong turned. Before Wu Haihua's punch could land, Du Zhong's foot shot out, A blur of movement later, Wu Haihua's furious expression twisted in shock. His mouth agape as if to swallow an egg. Beads of sweat dotted his forehead. Looking down, he saw Du Zhong's right foot planted firmly in his stomach. Get lost! With a cold shout, Du Zhong kicked Wu Haihua, sending him flying. You should go now, Du Zhong said to Gu Muir, ignoring Wu Haihua. Gu Muir glanced at Wu Haihua, a flicker of pity in her eyes, then turned back to Du Zhong. I hope he doesn't get killed by Du Zhong, she thought to herself. After thanking Du Zhong, she hurried into the hospital building. Once Gu Muir was gone, Du Zhong cast a disdainful glance at Wu Haihua, who lay on the ground and snorted before walking away. In Du Zhong's eyes, Wu Haihua was nothing but a petty, weak-minded coward. That's why Du Zhong usually couldn't be bothered with him. But Wu Haihua's repeated provocations had finally stirred a flicker of anger in Du Zhong. A tiger doesn't show its claws until provoked. Did they really think he was a pushover? Wu Haihua scrambled to his feet, glaring at Du Zhong's retreating back. Du Zhong, just you wait. This isn't over, he shouted, furious. Hearing Wu Haihua's cries, Du Zhong didn't bother to look back, merely curling his lips into a cold smile. Wu Haihua gritted his teeth. From the moment Du Zhong appeared, he had felt an overwhelming threat. Not just to his relationship with Gu Muir, but also to his standing with Elder Qin, his medical career, and his future. At first, Wu Haihua had merely tried to drive Du Zhong out of the hospital. But as Du Zhong continued to display his exceptional talents, Wu Haihua's resentment festered. The day before, after work, Wu Haihua, consumed by bitterness, had sought out his uncle. His uncle held a leadership position in the hospital. Though not as powerful as the dean, he had enough influence to expel Du Zhong. But when Wu Haihua asked his uncle to fire Du Zhong, the response shattered his hopes. He remembered his uncle's words clearly. I know you have issues with that security chief, Du Zhong, and I expected you to come to me. But before you did, I already tried to get rid of him. As you can see, it didn't work. Wu Haihua was stunned. What do you mean? Someone must be protecting him. With my current authority, I can't remove him. Those words left Wu Haihua bewildered. How could a newly appointed security chief, who knew no one in the hospital, have someone backing him? If things weren't as they seemed on the surface, then Du Zhong likely had connections rivaling his own. In other words, Du Zhong's background might be even stronger than his. Wu Haihua refused to accept it. After years of hard work, he had finally become Elder Qin's nominal disciple and had grown closer to Gu Muir. How could he stand by and watch Du Zhong destroy everything he had worked for? His eyes narrowed as he watched Du Zhong's figure disappear into the distance. A malicious plan began to take shape in his mind. You brought this on yourself. Don't blame me, he muttered, a sinister smile twisting his lips. Meanwhile, Du Zhong had just returned to the security office and was glaring sternly at the 6 security guards inside. Captain, Wang Hao stood up, noticing Du Zhong's grim expression. We'll start training right away. With that, he rushed out, followed closely by the other 5 guards. Halt! Du Zhong's voice rang out just as they stepped outside. The 6 men froze in their tracks. Fall in. Du Zhong took a few steps forward, scanning them as they quickly lined up. Today's training will be led by me, Du Zhong said with a faint smile. But before we begin, can anyone tell me where you were during work hours yesterday afternoon? The 6 guards, initially tense, relaxed visibly. Wang Hao grinned ingratiatingly. Yesterday, when that important person presented you with the commendation banner, we discussed it and decided it was an honor for our entire security team. For years, we've been looked down upon by those high and mighty doctors. This was our chance to regain some dignity. And so, Du Zhong's expression hardened. So you abandoned your duties to brag about it in the hospital building, all for the sake of pride? Well, Wang Hao faltered. The others exchanged confused glances. Pride matters in life, but responsibility matters more, Du Zhong said sternly. We're men, the protectors of this hospital. If you abandon your responsibilities, what kind of men are you? What kind of security guards? His words left the 6 men red-faced. Du Zhong understood that, as the team leader, his achievements reflected on the entire security team. Wang Hao and the others had acted with the team's honor in mind, so he didn't scold them for publicizing his accomplishments. 10-kilometer sprint, Du Zhong commanded, seeing there was nothing more to say. The 6 men immediately took off at full speed. 15 minutes later, they returned, drenched in sweat. 100 push-ups. The slowest one runs another 10 kilometers. Du Zhong declared without a hint of sympathy. Though reluctant, the 6 men began their push-ups with pained expressions. Wang Hao led by example, finishing 99 push-ups at top speed before stopping. He waited until everyone else had finished before completing his 100th. His physical fitness was superior, and he knew that anyone else forced to run another 10 kilometers would collapse from exhaustion. So he willingly took on the punishment. Wang Hao's gesture earned him the gratitude of the others. Du Zhong, observing quietly, nodded in approval. This was the kind of responsibility a man should embody. Outside the hospital, a group of aggressive thugs had gathered and were now marching toward the hospital with menacing intent. After Wang Hao finished his 10-kilometer run, Du Zhong delivered another lecture. No matter what happened, someone must always be on duty in the security office. Laziness would not be tolerated. Just as Du Zhong finished speaking, a nurse rushed into the security office, her face pale with panic. Something terrible is happening. There's a disturbance in the hospital, she cried out anxiously. You need to go check it out.